Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, max out your savings. The more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Plus, get free home delivery on any smart bed with base. Limited time. Check it out at a Sleep Number store near you or at sleepnumber.com today.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 3 off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Yusuf. And Mr. Toby Town play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. 5 o'clock quitting time. Glad you are driving home with us. What a show. It's one of those one-topic days that come along not very often in these parts where LSU fires a football coach. They are landmark days in the history of the program, therefore, and thereby a landmark day in the history of our state because so much of our state's economy runs around the LSU, not only the university, but the football program. So, yes, LSU firing Brian Kelly, presumably paying a $54 million buyout. This is going to be a giant topic of conversation, not just today, but heretofore. I do want to talk. So Brian Kelly was fired on Sunday, and then Joe Sloan was fired Monday. So I do want to talk about Sloan, what it means for the offense, coming up here in about 15 minutes from right now. So much of the conversation is shifting now to who's next. It's something you're going to hear me say a lot between now and whenever the time is that LSU hires a new coach, is that it's going to be hard to make predictions about who they're going to hire without knowing who is making the hire. And that may be confusing to some because LSU has an athletic director in Scott Woodward. And it would stand to reason that your athletic director is going to make the hire. But if you actually pay attention and put ear to ground and maybe pull back, take the 10,000-foot view on the periphery of everything going around LSU, especially in the past calendar year, there's a lot of things that are becoming increasingly clear. On Sunday at 5 o'clock, there was a meeting at the governor's mansion. It was the governor, members of the board of supervisors, select boosters. Notably absent was LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward. And at that meeting, they were discussing Brian Kelly's buyout and how to handle that buyout subsequently. And wouldn't it stand to reason that the athletic director would be in a meeting about the buyout for the football coach? I mean, sometimes you see something and like there's the news and there what's really going on. So if you see that and you're not asking, why wouldn't the athletic director be at a meeting with the governor and board members about the buyout for the football coach? Then you're asking the right question. And the answer is because, very clearly, there's friction there. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn or telling you anything you don't know if you actually pay attention. Look, last January, and one quick preface. I'm gonna issue this preface, but I know for a lot of you it's not going to matter. Because a lot of you who marry yourself to your political party, man, everything that's red is awesome, everything that's blue is evil, everything that's blue is awesome, everything that's red is evil, and there's no in between. I'm not that guy. I'm not political. I don't care. I've met Jeff Landry, really nice guy. I would call myself like an apolitical person. So in this conversation, I don't care if you're red, blue, RD. I don't care. I don't care. Vote for who you want. Live your life. Be a good person. I don't care. Even with that preface, some of you are still not going to believe me, and I don't care about you. So what I'll tell you is the governor over the last year has been making a lot of changes within the LSU system to get people that he wants in place. Okay, he's the governor. It's his prerogative. I don't care. But follow this path. Last January, Winston DeQueer, who was the chief legal counsel for LSU, was told to resign. His services were no longer needed. Over the summer, William Tate took the job at Rutgers. Don't think he was leaving LSU for Rutgers. He was told, find a job because you're not going to be the president here anymore. So now you have a search going on right now for a new university president. The governor very much favors Wade Rouse at McNeese. There are 5 finalists that were announced last week. The governor wants Wade Rouse to be the new president at LSU. Okay, I don't have an opinion on the matter. He might be a brilliant, super qualified guy. And you're about to have more board members term off, and the governor appoints board members. So Governor Landry, like every governor before him, by the way, whether it was John Bell Edwards or Bobby Jindal or Kathleen Blanco or whoever, will have control of the board. So all of those things fall in line. So that this isn't, if you love Landry, hate Landry, I don't care. That's not the point. It's evident that he's putting the systems in place to get the people in place he wants. Okay, he's the governor. Sure. But that oversight is extending into the athletic department clearly as well. When the governor has thrust himself into these conversations about buying out a football coach and hiring a football coach or whatever, my personal opinion on the matter is, man, people are hired to do a job. Get out of the way, let them do their job. If they succeed, great. If they fail, replace them. To suggest that an athletic director doesn't have the autonomy to fire a coach and pay the buyout or whatever, that's kind of silly to me. Like, of course he does. He's the athletic director. That's his job. But without a university president, you have an interim president right now. But remember, the athletic director is hired by the university president, vis-a-vis the rubber stamp by the board. But the president and the board work at the pleasure of the governor. So in some respect, the governor has sort of puppet master ability there, authority, if he chooses to use it. And all this to say, look, there's a lot of things that have happened that have put Jeff Landry and Scott Woodward at odds. There was a report at the end of last basketball season about the possibility of Will Wade coming back to LSU. There was a very prominent booster board member from Southwest Louisiana who was pushing for that. The governor wanted it as well. LSU clearly Scott Woodward didn't make that move. I think that set them at odds. I think political differences have set them at odds. There's a lot that Scott Woodward spending. There's a lot of things that they just disagree on. So I get the sense in having a lot of conversations, certainly not only in the last 36 hours, but in the last 12 months, that the governor, Jeff Landry, would like to make a change at athletic director. Is that imminent? Is it in the next coming days, weeks, months? I don't know. I don't have that answer for you. But it's very clear to me when the governor is injecting himself and his authority in the conversations about firing Brian Kelly, the buyout, all that sort of stuff. You better believe he's going to want to have a say in who's making the hire next. And I don't believe he wants that to be Scott Woodward. Now I'll give you my opinion. Okay, so that's laying out to this point what I know to be true and how this has all transpired here in this relative short term. I think Scott Woodward is an exceptional athletic director. I know the thing people always point out, Jimbo's contract and now Brian Kelly's contract. What I will tell you is the Jimbo contract, number one, the contract that Scott Woodward signed Jimbo to was not the problem. It was a 10-year, $75 million deal that averaged 7.5 per year over those years. Scott Woodward was gone when he came to Baton Rouge in 2019. After the COVID year, Ross Bjork signed Jimbo to an extension. The extension is what got Texas A&M saddled with a gigantic buyout, not the initial deal, because the initial deal, as the years go on, becomes more palatable. Because at the end of that deal, $7.5 million isn't that big of a deal relative to the way salaries are going now. Again, nobody will tell you that part of the story, but that's a giant part of the story. It wasn't the contract they gave Jimbo to get him away from Florida State. It was the extension Ross Bjork gave him. That was really the problem. As far as the Brian Kelly deal, sure, you swung big and you missed. Okay? He also got Chris Peterson to Boise State. He hired Kim Mulkey. He hired Jay Johnson. He hired Buzz Williams at Texas A&M. He's got a long history of hits as an athletic director. Facilities, his relationship with boosters to be able to shake the necessary trees to get done what he needs done. Make no mistake about it. You can throw darts at Scott Woodward and talk Jimbo or Brian Kelly's contract. That's fine. And I understand most athletic directors are going to be judged by the success or failure of their football hires. That's the nature of the job. But I'm telling you, Scott Woodward is an outstanding athletic director, and I would hate to see him go. And I would be very comfortable with Scott Woodward making the next football hire because he's a guy that aims big, generally gets the deal done, and that's the kind of hire I would like to see at LSU. Doesn't always work, as evidenced by what just happened with Brian Kelly, but you're reducing risk when you hire more of a proven commodity. So if you ask me, if my choice is Dan Lanning, do I think Scott Woodward could get that done? I don't know, but I think he's got a better shot than most. Just something to consider. So I can't give you anything more than what I've said here, which is an understanding that there is a division here with the governor in the state and the current athletic director. I do believe the governor, like he has shown already, is making changes at the administrative level throughout LSU, which is his prerogative to do. I'm not he's the governor of the state. He could do that. I'm not saying he can't. I would hate to see it trickle down to Scott Woodward because I think Scott is an extremely respected, very, very good athletic director who loves LSU and wants to be here. I don't know if that's enough, and we'll continue to follow it. But before we start talking about who the next coach is going to be, we have to know who is going to make that hire, and I'm not certain that it's going to be Scott Woodward. The new president should be announced, I would assume here within the next month. The presidential search committee has another meeting. I believe this week. I was looking at the website earlier. This week, there's then another one in November before they have to make their recommendation on who to hire. So we should have that answer in relatively short term of who is going to be the new university president. And that will be the person who is ultimately Scott Woodward's boss and make a determination of who is making this football hire sometime, I would assume. Remember, Brian Kelly was hired on November the 30th, the very end of November, back in 2021. So you're talking about 4 or 5 weeks from now, we should know who the next LSU head coach is going to be. and who is going to be making that hire. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. Brought to you by Evermore. I actually got a text on the show text line just a bit ago. A listener in Alexandria. It was, where was it? I want to give him a shout out. Brian V texted me. Said, found Evermore in Alexandria. Loved it. Tried it. There you go, man. EVAMOR. Evermore.com. Evermore.com. I drink Evermore every single day. Love to carry my 64-ounce bottles with me. Keeps me hydrated. Reminds me to stay hydrated throughout the day. A better form of hydration. Natural artesian water. EVAMOR. Evermore.com. Evermore.com. If you want the 20-ounce bottles, the 32-ounce bottles, the 64-ounce bottles, or if you want to order it online, you can at Evermore.com. EVAMOR. Evermore.com. All right, it's After Further Review. Let me not get a break, y'all. Monday show is brought to you by Relief Windows. We're cruising along here. You can always email us, tweet us, or text. Text 225-396-4400, 396-4400, Lots of ways you can get involved. Want to not get a break. The other shoe to drop is that Joe Sloan was fired on Monday. I want to talk about Sloan being fired, the other offensive staff shakeups, and what that means for the remainder of the season and moving forward. We'll get to that next on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about River City's 1 hour air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. Have you done it yet? Have you called the number? I'm giving you the number in just a second, so here's your opportunity to get your cell phone out or to ask Siri or Alexa to call for you. Get your number, get your phone out, because I want you to call this number now. And when you call right now, you're going to talk to a living, breathing human. You're not going to get an answering service with an AI or a bot answering it. It's not going to be a recorded message. You will talk to a human. When you call the number, but how refreshing in 2025, right? When you call this number, you're going to talk to a human. That's going to schedule your service. 752-0001. 752-0001. 752-0001. 752-0001 for River City's 1 hour air. Schedule your pre-season heater safety check. It's easy, y'all. Mention the show. They'll knock $30 off the price. They'll come out to your house to make sure your heater is safe, efficient to run during the coming cold weather months. Don't turn on that heater until you have this done. 752-0001.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
I had to answer questions of being critical with Blake last year, right? I mean, he is doing what he's asked to do to manage the games the way we need to play. We have a top 10 defense, I believe, in the country. And we need to play to that strength. And so sometimes you have to pull back a little bit here and there. He's being a great coach from that perspective. Because, look, offensive coordinator, they want to score points too. But sometimes I'm, tapping the brakes here a little bit in those situations. Because that's going to be the identity of this football team.
Brian Kelly, back in September, talking about Joe Sloan, some of the struggles of the offense. Well, Kelly fired on Sunday. A day later, Joe Sloan joins him as LSU issued that formal release that Sloan is out. There was a lot of conversation over the weekend about potential multiple staff changes. And I could name names, but I think we all understand. You look at the positions that have struggled. The offensive line has struggled. There was conversation around Brad Davis. Special teams was very poor on Saturday against Texas A&M. Monanand was the guy that was mentioned. But ultimately, as I was told today on Monday, the decision was to maintain as much continuity as possible. If you start upsetting the entire staff, then players come back, and in the final month, they have new position coaches, new voices for the final 4 games. Trying to maintain some degree of continuity, I think, was important. But a new voice offensively was justified. Listen, I was one of those who was, for the first month of the season, willing to hear the explanation and to give them time. Because a year ago, we saw the Sloan-Nussmeier combination worked. They were top 30 in the country in total offense. They were top 10 in the country in passing offense. You added more weapons this year. Harlem Berry and Brown. I mean, you traded as Green, taking another step. It didn't make sense that the offense would be this bad. so you look for the why, and there's a lot of things that made sense early. 5 new starters on the offensive line, how much was Nuss load with injury, all this stuff. Maybe having a better defense let you lean more on the defense than you otherwise would have. But ultimately, you get to the point where you have a large enough sample size to where you go, whoever you want to blame deserves blame. Joe Sloan deserves blame. Brad Davis deserves blame. Nussmeier at times, poor play, deserves blame. The offensive line has been atrocious. They've gotten Garrett Nussmeier killed this year. They deserve blame. Brian Kelly ultimately deserves all the blame because was the head coach, and obviously the puke goes up the ladder. So, yes, I am not absolving anybody from blame. I think sometimes when guys get fired, though, when coaches get fired, we tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we fail to recognize things that were good. And Joe Sloan in Baton Rouge did good things. He came here as the quarterback's coach when Brian Kelly came for the 2022 season. And remember, Mike Denbrock was the offensive coordinator and did a fantastic job here. I think we can all objectively acknowledge that. But Denbrock was the tight ends coach. Joe Sloan worked with the quarterbacks. Joe Sloan worked with Jaden Daniels. And if you remember when Jaden came here from Arizona State, the knock on Jaden Daniels was accuracy. His completion percentage numbers at Arizona State were 60.7%, 58.3%, then 65.4%. He comes to LSU, boom, 68.6%, 72.2%. And I'm not saying all of the credit goes to Joe Sloan, but to not give him any credit is disingenuous. In the same way that sitting here today and arguing that the offensive issues had nothing to do with Joe Sloan, that would be disingenuous. Not giving him his due for helping develop Jaden Daniels would also be unfair. I can remember going to fall camp and watching the practices, and they were working so much on accuracy drills. They would put a basket in the back corner of the end zone, and they would move the launch point, left hash, right hash, 5-step drop, and just target practice. They'd have to make throws hitting the left upright, right upright, crossbar. Like, it was just such a drilled thing that Joe did with those quarterbacks that we got to see when we were out there at practice. That, yes, I believe a big part of Jaden's progress at LSU was the work that Joe Sloan did as his position coach. Now, Jaden is an outstanding athlete and a very special player, and his ability to improvise and, hit the B button on the remote control, go 85 against Florida. I mean, special athletes do that. But he also had good coaching. I think that's important to note. And then Sloan is the OC a year ago in 2024. The offense was good. The problem LSU had a year ago was the defense was very poor. I mean, the defense gave up the game-winning drive against Southern Cal in Las Vegas. The defense couldn't tackle Marcel Reed. The defense couldn't tackle Jalen Milroe. Those weren't problems with Nussmeier, Sloan, at the offense. But this year, it's undeniable, unavoidable, inexcusable. And I've levied my share of criticism. Not running the ball against Ole Miss is inexcusable in that game. To go only twice the entire game where you run the ball in consecutive plays, allow your defense to be out there for 84 plays. It's all things we've talked about. So I understand this. I understand moving on from Joe Sloan at the time they are. And I believe it's the right decision at this point. And I'm going to be really interested to see what happens now with Alex Atkins. So over the weekend, I'll tell you, there was a lot of conversation about who would call plays. And the two people that were considered, and I did put this in a tweet earlier, and I worded it poorly initially, but initially the conversations were about Tim Rattay and Alex Atkins as the two guys. There were some that favored Tim Rattay taking over play calling duties. Ultimately, this was Frank Wilson's decision to make the determination of how he wanted to structure the staff. He chose Atkins. Atkins ran sidecar to Joe Sloan. If you looked up at the press box and during the games, you'd see Sloan sitting right next to him was Atkins. Atkins was the OC at Florida State when they had their brilliant season in 2023 that unfortunately, ended in disappointment after the injury to Jordan Travis. And he was scapegoated after their 2-10 year. Again, I'm not saying he didn't deserve any of the blame, but he was the one who took the fall. And he was also the OC at Charlotte before he went to Florida State. So Alex Atkins has play calling experience, And I'm also fascinated because Atkins is a guy who is an offensive lineman, has been an offensive line coach, has been a run game coordinator, and I will be fascinated to see if with Alex Atkins as the offensive coordinator, do we see LSU start to commit more to the run for the remainder of the season? And I think and you may think it's a lost season, and I don't totally disagree, but everything is building toward the future. And I do believe that, I know, that in the week leading up to in the week leading up to Texas A&M, they made a concerted effort during the week to focus more on the inside run game. Harlem Berry crushed it during the week, which is why Berry got the start. And in the first half, he averaged 7 yards a carry against Texas A&M. And then he carried the ball in the first offensive snap of the second half, never got another carry. So maybe we see more of a commitment to the running game with Alex Atkins, which I would love to see. And an opportunity for a guy like Harlem Berry maybe to continue his development. So Atkins will continue as the tight ends coach and also as the primary play caller. I'm told Tim Rattay will coach quarterbacks. Now, Sloan was the quarterbacks coach, and Rattay was an analyst working with the quarterbacks as well. Tim Rattay will take over as the quarterbacks coach, but also will have an increased role, as I was told today, with game planning and in the game day execution of the offense as well. So Rattay will take on more responsibility. Cortez Hankton, who's currently the co-offensive coordinator, will maintain his current role working with the receivers. And the other change is with Corday Hankton. A lot of people may not even know that Corday's been on staff the past 2 years. But so Corday Hankton is Cortez Hankton's younger brother. From New Orleans, coached high school in New Orleans, and has gone on to work a lot of different places. Colorado, Michigan State. He's been around, played collegiately at Jackson State. And he has been Frank Wilson's assistant working with the running backs. Corday Hankton has. So now, with Frank Wilson taking on the expanded role of the head coaching duties, needs somebody to work with the running backs primarily during the week and on game days. So that's going to be Corday Hankton. He'll move from his analyst role to take on an increased role with the running backs as Frank Wilson is managing his head coaching duties. So those are the notable changes on the staff. And again, to reiterate, for those asking about Brad Davis or others on staff, I have the same questions you do. But what was expressed to me was if you start, like hypothetically, if you did fire Brad Davis, then Alex Atkins then likely is probably working with the offensive line as well. So now Atkins is the OC, play caller, offensive line, and tight ends. Are you putting too much on one person? So I understand that. Why they didn't want to have full wholesale turnover on the coaching staff. So for now, Joe Sloan was the one that was dismissed. They'll move forward with 4 games remaining, try to maintain as much continuity as possible, a new voice, a new vision calling plays. And the other thing that I will mention is something that a lot of people have called for, and that's the possibility of a quarterback change. Now, I don't know what that decision is going to be. Frank Wilson will meet with reporters on Tuesday after practice, and then he's on the SEC Coaches Teleconference on Wednesday. But one thing that I heard mentioned plenty on Sunday is that there are staff members who have wanted and lobbied for a quarterback change. Now, my opinion, I want to be very clear when I share with you opinion and when I'm giving you information that I have. There are people on staff, I have no problem telling you this, that have lobbied for a change at quarterback to let Michael Van Buren start. My opinion is Garrett Nussmeier is not your problem. I think there's a lot of blame to go around, but Nussmeier isn't your biggest problem. He has gotten the holy hell kicked out of him on every play. If you are watching, they need a spatula to peel him up off the ground every play because your offensive line is atrocious. Now, if you want to talk about Van Buren to add a mobile quarterback dynamic, sure. He was also sacked on the second play he was in this past weekend against Texas A&M. A&M sacked LSU 7 times and had 11 TFLs because your offensive line is very bad, which I believe is the core central issue of everything that's created the domino effect that's really caused this offense to falter. But that is at least something that I would keep an eye on throughout the bye and before they get ready for Bama. Now, do you really want to give Michael Van Buren his first start at LSU on the road at Alabama? I don't think that's ideal, but what is? Maybe at home against Arkansas? I don't know. But something to keep an eye on throughout the bye week is if the newly formed staff does make a change at quarterback. It'd be awful, man, for Nussmeier if it ended that way for him. A guy who spent his whole career here, came back for his 5th season, and then in November of his 5th year, ended up being benched. But life ain't fair. And you got a new staff, new vision, new direction, and we'll see what they choose to do. But that is at least something that I would keep an eye on throughout the bye and as they get ready for Alabama. All right, it's After Further Review. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows, reliefwindows.com. Always love telling you about South Point Volkswagen, Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer, southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. New certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge, online, southpointvw.com. Go out in the parking lot. You'll see my black Volkswagen Atlas Crossport. Drive Volkswagen. Go to the house. Erica's got a white Volkswagen Atlas. She likes the bigger vehicle. I had an Atlas. Said, I don't really need all the space. So the Crossport takes out the third row. Little sleeker, all the great luxury as well, style, feel, performance of luxury without the cost. Telling you, if you've never driven a Volkswagen, get behind the wheel of one. Go test drive one today. And the best place to go is South Point Volkswagen because as Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer, they give you a better deal than anyone. southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction? All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Let me knock out a break. Jimmy's here in about 12 minutes for Auto Locks. Find out what we're betting on tonight. See if he's got a bet on Major League Baseball, on the NFL, tonight on Monday Night Football. Auto Locks live over at louisianasports.net. If you want them, it's always there and always free. We'll knock out a break and continue on AFR.
AFR.
All right, y'all. Halloween is this Friday. You need pumpkins? Go to Clegg's, any of the 4 locations. Seaganeer Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Buy local, shop local at Clegg's Nursery. Also, this weekend, the Baton Rouge Green Tree Spree is this week. I know a lot of people love this event. It's annual at Clegg's, the Segan Lane store only. It's this Saturday, November the 1st. Open date for LSU, so a great opportunity to get by. This Saturday, November 1st, from 8 a.m. to noon at the Segan store only. It's the Baton Rouge Green Tree Spree. If you're looking for trees, this is the time. The best selection, and of course, all benefiting a great cause as well. They'll have arborists on hand to help you shop for what you're looking for. Every Baton Rouge Green Tree approved tree purchase, Clegg's is making a donation to the Baton Rouge Green Mission. It's Clegg's Nursery.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And we do shutters too.
The firing of Brian Kelly comes at no surprise, especially when your past predecessors have won national championships in their first 4 years. Not only was this LSU team not going to win a championship, they weren't going to make the playoff. A playoff that's now a 12-team playoff. Make no mistake about it, LSU is a blue blood. They expect not only to compete for national championships, they expect to win national championships. And it became apparent that Brian Kelly and his coaching staff couldn't get it done. But the next LSU head coach better understand it's championship or bust. That's what they want in Baton Rouge.
Well, when you make that's Booker McFarland. When you make that type of investment, that's obviously going to be the expectation. The big questions now here, obviously, are who's next for LSU. Also, what does Brian Kelly do next? There's been so much reaction. As a matter of fact, our buddy Brandon Marcello from CBS opined on what's next for Kelly, who you have 2 now veteran coaches with Brian Kelly and James Franklin on the open market.
Well, I think he'll probably take some time to rest and relax on this, but I would expect he's going to put his name in the hat for some of these jobs out there and some of the bigger ones. I could even hear him come up at Penn State potentially as they get their search going there. There's a lot of programs that you also have to look at that are kind of mid-tier in the power conferences that want to make a splash, right? They're going to be really kind of going after coaches that these other blue blood programs are going to probably take away from them. So you might try and get a retread coach at a place like a Virginia Tech or in Arkansas, guys that have won elsewhere, but maybe they were fired or let go, and you can bring them in and excite your fan base.
You know, I think there are certainly spots in college football where Brian Kelly would make sense. And from an LSU perspective, you're keeping an eye on this because of the mitigation in his contract. If Brian Kelly gets another job, his buyout is offset by his contract. Odds are out today. Brian Kelly's plus 300 to be the next Arkansas coach. Plus 400 at UCLA, plus 500 at Virginia Tech, plus 700 at Stanford. I mean, I have no doubt that there are athletic departments that would hire Brian Kelly. I have a really tough time, though, believing Brian Kelly is going to take a lesser job. It is my deeply held belief that Brian Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU for one reason: to win a national championship. He watched the three coaches before him all win championships. And he thought, well, if Les Miles and Ed Orgeron can do it, of course I can do it with all the resources they have. And it hasn't worked out, clearly. But at 64 years old, by the way, Brian Kelly's birthday was Saturday. Whew. At 64 years old, I don't get the sense that Brian Kelly is aching to go start over somewhere else and just coach at a place to keep coaching. I think there is a more likely scenario that Brian Kelly ends up in the media next year, like Nick Saban. Keeps him close to the game, gets to travel, gets to be at stadiums, gets to be part of football Saturdays, gets to watch film and all that stuff, and doesn't have to worry about NIL and portal and building a roster and all the things that weren't the things he signed up for 35 years ago. Maybe I'll be wrong. Been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But my opinion is I think we might have seen Brian Kelly coach for the last time. Because I don't know that one of the marquee jobs, like would he take Penn State? Sure, I think he would take Penn State. Because I think he has feeling that he could win there. I don't know that Penn State is going to have Brian Kelly at the top of their list. The other side of it is for LSU, which is far more interesting, I think, for our audience here, is who is LSU targeting. For what it's worth, these are the odds out today. And the best odds at plus $1.50 is John Sumrall from Tulane, followed by Joe Brady, then Lane Kiffin, then James Franklin, Eli Drinkwitz, Jeff Brom, Brent Key, Jimbo Fisher, Clark Lee, Marcus Freeman, could you imagine? Urban Meyer, and then Nick Saban at plus 7,500. You know, I think the top three on that list are so interesting because of how different they are. Sumrall would be a more attractive price point. Brady would be affordable and would bring NFL experience, but no head coaching experience. And then Kiffin would be the home run hire, the grand slam coach that would get everybody really excited. But I'll continue to say it for as long as we talk about this, which will be until LSU hires a coach, which I can't imagine will be till after the regular season. So we got another month of all this conversation. I got to know who's making the hire first. Because if it's Scott Woodward, then Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning, like those guys are going to be at the top of the list because that's Scott's MO. And that's what I prefer. But if it's someone else who's thinking they're going to try to go bargain shopping and get the up-and-comer, then maybe a John Sumrall, a Joe Brady, a Jeff Brom from Louisville. Maybe those are the ones that, a Brent Key, maybe those are the ones that make more sense. Time will tell. We'll be here talking about it all the way throughout. All right, Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Windows, door siding, oh yeah, they do shutters as well. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Got to knock out our final break, y'all. We'll come back. Jimmy will be here for Auto Locks. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us here on this Monday, this crazy Monday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Man, I am thrilled every day to have the opportunity here to tell you about Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. And I know a lot of people, when they hear me talk about Goodwood first, they look at the logo, they hear the name, they laugh, they think it's funny. Sure. And that's the point. It's good marketing, right? That's to get your attention. And yes, at Goodwood, they do ED treatments, but that's only a very small part of their business. Hormone replacement therapy is something that I would encourage everyone. Get your blood labs drawn. Get your blood labs drawn. When was the last time you had blood labs drawn anyway? Let them do a full blood panel on you, including testing out your hormones, your testosterone, all of your different hormone levels. Because you can safely, affordably supplement yourself to get to healthy levels. I'm telling you right now, I know this from experience. You don't know how bad you feel until you start feeling good again. And they can help. YourGoodwood.com, YourGoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Down the stretch we come. Final segment here on a Monday edition of AFR. We are brought to you by Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com. ParishBuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Me, Terrio, Tilly, Joe Morales, our whole crew. Roof repairs, roof replacements, gutters, soft wash. We do it all. We'd love to help you out, commercial or residential. I always say I just appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. From claim to cleanup, we're there at Parish Construction and Roofing. We can give you that free, no-obligation roofing inspection. Our crews are awesome. We have a catch-all system when we're doing your roof replacement. It catches all the debris to protect your plants, the front of your home, prevent nails and shingles from maybe getting in your garden, damaging your plants, your lawn. We take a lot of pride in what we do, and we're thrilled to help you out. Parish Construction and Roofing, ParishBuilt.com, ParishBuilt.com. Do business with someone you know, Parish Construction and Roofing. All right, find out what we're betting on tonight. Time for Auto Locks.
Auto Locks.
All right, time to win some money.
Presented by Total Maintenance AC Repair. Same-day service means you will never sleep hot. 480-1000. We are Total Maintenance.
I think it's safe to say that I won the bet.
What an honor. What an honor. On his 27th birthday, Jimmy Ott carves out a few minutes for us here for Otter Locks. Otter, happy birthday. How are you?
Where's my man, Drew? Where's my Coco Van? Where's my Pelican?
How drunk is he right now? I have no idea.
I'm fine. Let me tell you, though, I do want to, in this time, good obvious story. Listen, when they tell you the odds and the Heisman Trophy winner, the week of, you know who's getting it.
Yes.
Vegas doesn't put these out, but like Bovada and these other places.
Yeah.
The most wrong thing, the most inaccurate thing they're on is coaching searches.
Okay.
I'm just late. Trust me. So they might hit one every now and then, but they are wrong more than any other thing they put eyes on.
Interesting.
Coaching searches. Yeah. So, happy birthday.
They've got John Summerall as the favorite to be the LSU coach. I don't think they're going to hit on that one.
Man, like you, I'm hearing a lot of conflicting things, and because they went this route, they're going to go to more of an up-and-comer. I don't know. You know how this goes. I mean, they're not totally sure who's making the decision on the hire to begin with, but I'll say this, Matt, I was surprised. I was surprised. And, I mean, even after Penn State kind of laid the groundwork, still surprised.
Yeah.
I was very, so, I mean, this is 29 days removed from being top 5 in the country. Now they, this is the most, last week rather, the most active winningest coach in college football.
Yeah.
With 6 years left in his contract. So
stunning.
Listen, but keep in mind, the one constant, minus UAB, who has no fans, the embarrassing home losses prompted all of the other firings this year.
Yeah.
From UCLA getting housed by New Mexico by 4 touchdowns, to Penn State losing to Northwestern at home, to Virginia Tech losing to Old Dominion, all at home, which adds to the emotion. I've just never seen a fan base dictate a firing more than an administration. That's why I'm surprised. But we're still learning because it's a new climate, man.
Man, you should have done your show today.
What's that?
You should have done your show today.
I did the first
1 minute.
I mean, I tried to hold the boy by his hand. Can I take one day off?
Yeah. All right. We got to go quick. What you got?
Ladder. I mean, Dodgers to win the game money line. Dodgers to minus one, whether it's Bet Rivers or DraftKings. Minus 1.5. Over 8. Dodgers. This Scherzer thing cannot sustain in the postseason. We're going to light him up tonight. And then I'm going to say, man, I hate taking a double-digit favorite, but the Chiefs are really trending the right way. Mariota, no, he's not Jaden Daniels. Chiefs minus the points, but Dodgers, every step of the way in the over tonight.
All right. Where are you tomorrow?
At Dozy Place on Government Street.
Very good, man.
Tiger, man. Go Tigers.
Happy birthday, Otter.
Thank you, brother.
That is Jimmy Ott. What a show. Muse, Paulie, thanks. Appreciate all the hard work. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 3.
After further review.
I really wish Supper Club was open right now. I've had maybe the longest 36 hours of my professional life. Well, maybe not ever, but in some time, I could really use a steak, a glass of wine, a cocktail over at Supper Club. But I'll have to wait another day. Supper Club's open Tuesday through Saturday. They're closed Sunday, Monday, so closed right now. But remember, you want the best dining experience you'll find anywhere, not only in Baton Rouge, in the state of Louisiana, or among the best in the country. You want Supper Club. SupperClubBTR.com for your reservations. SupperClubBTR.com. Open date this weekend. No LSU game, so maybe Saturday night you want to get to Supper Club, experience it for the first time, or for the next time. Get your reservations right now at SupperClubBTR.com. That's SupperClubBTR.com.